Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first ever episode of the Games and Gains podcast, where we talk about two things: games and gains. I'm Gage Mahalski, and
I'm Joe Olo Jr.
I know Joe because we actually used to go to the same gym together. We met when he walked up to me in the middle of a deadlift session and was like, "Hey, do you want to do a powerlifting meet in a few weeks?"
That's exactly.
And
Yep.
I was like, all right, well,
Is
that's
this
what
the
I'm here
shirt?
for. So
Did you
that is the
compete at
shirt.
this competition? Yeah.
No,
No?
I didn't
All
do
right.
that one. I did the one where it was the qualifier where it was just you and me.
Oh, okay. That was dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
The one where I didn't have my deadlift socks and I had a pulled hamstring and I didn't know what I was doing because that was my first ever sanctioned meet.
Yeah. That actually kind of happened to me too. Minus the well, you know what? A month before the competition, I actually screwed up my back super bad, and I wasn't able to lift for like 6 weeks. And then 2 weeks before the meet, I finally recovered and did like one deadlift day, if that, and then did the competition. And when I got to the competition, I didn't know you needed like deadlift socks. You can't come in contact with the bar because of blood and stuff. And so I was like, "Hey, John, who's the owner of the gym," I was like, "Hey, John, do you have any like deadlift socks?" And he looked at me. He was like, "All right, yeah, let me go out to my car real quick." And I actually took first at that competition, so it was tight.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, before that you were just like some dude who also lifted in the same gym as me. But
yeah, I kind of assumed that you were also in the military. Like,
yeah,
you just kind of like know looking across the gym.
fresh cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're just like
if
this
you're
tall,
in
handsome
Hawaii,
man.
if you're in Hawaii and you see a white guy who's got like the fade, probably in the military.
That's not true. No, totally. No, you're right. That's exactly right. Yep.
All right. I guess I don't know if we said what this channel is supposed to be, but we are trying to bridge the gap between nerd shit, which is super cool in its own way, and jock shit like gains and sports and other stuff, which for some reason, like in culture, there's like this divide, and if you do one, you're not supposed to do the other. But
yeah, there's
that's
this like
dumb.
a huge stigma. Like, I remember growing up, I spent a lot of time in both worlds as I was growing up. When I was very little, very little, I was a part of like every sport. My mom kept putting me into like
little, Joe?
Okay, I was little until I was
littler. You were littler.
Yeah. See, I was always the short guy though. So like
when you were
right
young.
now I'm 5'8" when I was young.
Yeah.
I'm right now I'm 5'8". I'm like barely above average or whatever it is. But growing up I was like 5 foot, 100 pounds, and then I hit high school and then I was 5'4", 130 pounds, and then I joined football, which is actually where I discovered powerlifting.
What about your nerd stuff there? What are you into?
Right. So after I did a bunch of kid stuff and I got hurt in football, I got 4 concussions back to back. So I had to figure out a new like hobby, and I had to pick a new elective. And in class, I picked theater. And I was like, wow, this is going to be really stupid. I hate this. Please get me out of here. And after like 1 week of this, I was like, I can do this forever. This is my favorite thing in the whole world. I get to be more than just me. And it was a really cool experience. On top of that, I'm a gamer, which I feel like that was one of the first things that bridged the gap. Gaming and anime. Like, I feel like growing up, everyone was like, I've been playing video games and I've been watching Dragon Ball Z, right?
Yeah, for our age, it's not that nerdy to play video games. It's super common. Like everyone does it. You have to take it to an extreme level, like being an e-gamer, like a professional, before it starts to get like, oh, you're a nerd.
Even still, like, who can point at an e-gamer and be like, you're wasting your fucking life, my guy? Like,
Oh yeah, those guys are making so much money.
it's like, sure, make fun of me, I guess. I just made $750,000 for holding a controller, like,
Yeah.
or using mouse and keyboard for the purists.
For the nerd kings, the
Exactly,
nerdiest of the nerds.
exactly. But the funny thing is, I actually didn't like truly come out of my shell until after I joined the military. For one, you're exposed to so many people, so many mindsets, so many different activities. And when I first got into the military, I still had some of the like the stigma of like D&D's nerdy, Magic's nerdy, like there's that line. And then one of my friends convinced me to start playing Magic the Gathering, and that was an endless pit for me. I'm so obsessed with Magic. Like it's great.
Yeah.
And I would love to do a video about it.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Uh,
What about you?
yeah,
What are your nerddoms?
my nerddoms. My main one is Star Wars. I love Star Wars. It was my number one, like the first real nerdy thing I fell in love with, and it's been the number one since then. Other than that, I mean, I was in band in high school, like, well, starting in elementary school, like that's pretty nerdy.
You're
Like I
telling me that
played, I
playing an instrument's nerdy?
yeah, I played saxophone all throughout school, and I actually got a scholarship to play in college. So
All right.
like, and I was in choir,
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
was in jazz band,
Nice.
so pretty musical. But for us, I didn't think choir was that nerdy. Like I was telling my wife, I was like, "Oh yeah, I was in choir," and she's like, "Oh, you nerd." But for us,
You're just like,
I'm, I'm just
what?
like, "All right, are you nerd shaming me?" But like everyone's in choir, so
Yeah. It's like,
I don't know,
especially that time, you're forced into some sort of musical
something.
elective. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we had a great choir teacher. Dude was a what loose cannon. He would
Mm,
say all kinds of stuff you're not supposed to say as a teacher, but he kept it cool and kept it
nice.
fun.
Yeah.
And also, he would just like if you were really bad and like couldn't sing, he would kick you out of his class. He'd be like, "Oh, go take art." So
Damn. But I mean, like,
yeah,
I'd rather someone tell me to
dude.
my face that I can't sing
Yeah,
than for me to go embarrass myself on stage or
yeah,
something.
yeah. I mean, dude took it serious. Like we went to like state competitions for choir, and we went to New York and sang at St. Paul's Cathedral. So like, we went to places. So
Nice.
and
That's
then
cool.
I don't know what else am I into. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's really not really nerdy, but it's a big fandom that I'm into. So
So here's the thing with I mean, I'm right there with you. Avatar, I have a tattoo. That's Order of the White Lotus right there. Yep. Avatar: The Last Airbender is my favorite show of all time. It touches on everything. It's smart, funny, cute, like, and there's all the nuances, every detail, nothing's missed. Like, it's amazing.
how do you feel about Legend of Korra?
I enjoy it. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think
Um,
how do you think it is better? Do you think it's worse? Do you think it compares?
that's a hard question to answer. For one, the original series has a load of nostalgia to it. Like, I
Hmm.
remember watching every episode every week and like having to catch it.
Yeah.
Korra, I had the fortune of being able to like binge it on Netflix, which
Hmm.
is what most people experience nowadays, right?
Yeah.
But as for like storyline and characters and plot development and the new dope uh bending that you can do that um that they expand on, like, it's just so awesome. I wish a lot of those other bending were in the older series. Obviously,
Yeah.
Toph brought in metal bending,
Mhm.
which is my favorite. But
Yeah.
still,
I thought I thought that they were able to in Legend of Korra. They had. I mean, it was like four separate series, four separate villains. It wasn't like you know Avatar. It
yes,
was all three seasons were leading up to the Fire Nation, Fire Lord Ozai. It was like such different. There was like the Equalist in season one, which is like kind of like more of like the communism style, like extreme
hmm
equality. And then season two was what's his name? Water Tribe guy, open the spirit portals.
right.
And then you get into season three, like Zahir, which is like anarchy, which I thought he was one of the best villains in any TV show.
In anything, like period, because
Yeah.
you're like, dude, he's right.
Yeah. It's like Thanos. Like, yeah, he starts monologuing and you're just like,
Okay, he's like
hmm.
MCU Thanos because like comic
Yeah.
book Thanos is literally a mad, like they call him the Mad Titan for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's like yeah, you
but
see him and you're just like, like Zahir has some good points.
yeah, I remember. Also, it's incredibly gruesome. Spoiler alert: when he finally like severs his ties to
Hmm.
like his earthly tethers, right? Because his
Yeah, his one
fucking
earthly tether.
his girlfriend's head is explodes. Like I
Yeah.
was like, that's intense. It's dope.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like and the whole show is just a little bit darker, just a little bit more grown up,
hmm
which I think works because the people who grew up watching it, loving it, grew up. So
Exactly. Which is like Monsters Inc. and
yeah,
Monsters University. They waited that
yeah,
long because anyway.
yeah. There's a reason. Oh, so
So you really think that qualifies as a nerddom? All right. Okay. All right. Real quick.
I don't, except for I think what makes something nerdy is part content, and I think the other part of it is the intensity with which you get into it. Because like if you're like a casual, like my dad has seen Star Wars, but he is in no way like a Star Wars fan, right?
Right.
Like so if with Avatar and Legend of Korra, I feel like it's the same thing. Like if someone's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen some episodes," that's very very different than like you're into it. You're into like the mythology and like the backstories and like you know that stuff. Like if you're I just
So
feel like it makes it a little bit different.
you'd say the line is obsession, right? It's like, all right,
Yeah,
how much information do I need to know about this thing,
yeah.
right?
It's
And if
like
you draw the
cool.
line at like surface value, like I know the characters'
Hmm.
names, I know what's going on, I can appreciate
Yeah,
it. We're good.
yeah. You can watch it without asking too many questions, or hopefully no questions. But yeah, if you're into like the mythology of like the Kyoshi warriors and like a little bit more stuff like that, like stuff that's like briefly covered, like then I think it gets a little bit nerdy. That's fine.
So I'm curious,
Nerd,
have you
nerd
actually
is not a
read?
bad word.
No, no, absolutely not. I take it as a compliment because I'm like,
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for letting me know that I know more about something than the average person.
yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
Exactly.
But
Um,
no, for your question you were going to ask, I haven't read the comics. I just watched a lot of YouTube videos about like histories of things,
mhm.
all that fun stuff. So
Yeah.
just try base probably consuming the same content just through a different medium.
Right. And that brings up a really interesting like argument for most people when it comes to nerddoms, specifically ones that have a written and a visual form, right?
Hmm.
So like comic books to animes, or comic books to mangas to animes, comic books to Marvel movies or DC movies or whatever, right?
Yep.
I personally don't think you have to have read the original content to be a true nerd of the subject, right?
Right.
That being
I
said,
agree with you.
mhm,
I agree with you. But the more effort you have to put in to consume the content, the nerdier it is. I think. You can watch Lord of the Rings or you can read Lord of the Rings. One of those is a lot more effort, so it's
that's probably
nerdier.
one of the best supporting arguments I've heard for like the book reading.
Hmm.
But from someone like me, I struggle a lot with reading because I have a hard time keeping focus.
Hmm.
So like I'll read the same page like 10 times and give up. I'm like I I want to know this information, but I just can't. So that's when I start watching YouTube videos or I get really
Yeah.
deep into like the movies and look up all the information I can, which you could argue you're willing to read it on the internet, but you can't read it in a book. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
different. It's
Yeah.
more
It's just
active to me.
varying. Yeah. It's varying levels of nerddom.
Yeah. Um, Now, like the sports side. So we've talked a little bit about our powerlifting.
Hmm.
Um, what other sports have you had like a real interest in?
Hockey was my first love in all of life. Like I started playing hockey in I think fourth grade, which is actually late in Minnesota. Like
Mm,
that's really late. That's about as late as you can start and actually be good. And then it was like my obsession throughout high school, and I tried to play in college, but that didn't work out. So I quit college and joined the military. But hockey was my number one for a long time. I did cross country and I did track throughout high school. Um, and then since being in the military, it's really been all about lifting,
yeah.
powerlifting, strongman, weightlifting. Like I've competed in all three, which, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. Say what you
But
will,
better than
but
being a
it's
master of
fun.
one.
Yeah,
Um,
so as far as like the power sports goes, I've kind of done most of them. I've never done any Highland Games, stuff like that.
mm,
But that's something I'd actually be interested in doing at some point. But it's just there's only so many hours in the day. Got to get to it at some point.
yep. Yep. Um, Now, to the people watching, don't be confused. Powerlifting and the power sports are our main outlet. What we'd like to do is have people on to talk a little bit more about some of the other sports, um, and give more people insight into more options. Because as much as I love the weight room, it's not the only thing, right?
Mm-mm.
So not only will we provide advice in the power realm, but also find advice elsewhere, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we both know enough to know that there's a lot we don't know. Like I have a very, very surface level knowledge on bodybuilding. So at some point, I think we're going to have bodybuilders on this channel, try to get them to actually be the subject matter experts and teach us some stuff and teach our five listeners some
Exactly. Well, I
stuff.
mean, we know you guys.
In while we're talking about the power sports,
Okay.
so the USA Powerlifting Nationals, ooh, excuse me, USA Powerlifting Nationals, which is for anybody who doesn't know, it is the um, national level event that you have to do very well at to qualify to go to the World Championships.
Right.
It's being hosted. Normally, it's in the fall. I think November, October, November. It's in June this year,
Okay.
and there's actually a lot of controversy around this. So it's one of the things I wrote down that I saw throughout the week that I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
So, due to coronavirus, they're very, very, very severely limiting the number of competitors.
Right.
But the way that they're picking competitors isn't by total. It has more to do with just when people are signing up Like once it opens up, I watched a Johnny Candido training HQ video, and he went really, really in depth into it. But it's basically, I think for like the top 10 people who like rank, they're prioritizing their registration because let's be honest, they're the ones
Right.
who are actually going to go to Worlds.
They're the
And then
ones earning the views.
after that, it's just who signs up.
Right.
And they're rolling out this fun new thing this year called a lifetime membership, which for like an 18 to 22-year-old would cost about $2,400. And if you buy a lifetime membership, it automatically qualifies you for national.
You're buying a ticket into nationals.
Yes, you are buying your way into nationals. Also, if you do the math, $2,400 is it's I think it's over 30 years of USAPL memberships. So you could lift, like, how long is someone's powerlifting career really? 20 years? Maybe?
Depends.
You know, like,
Yeah.
unless you've got some crazy longevity. But, like, so think
Tony.
about that. You could, yeah, like some of the dudes, but you could lift exclusively through USAPL and for 20 years. And if you bought this lifetime membership, you would still be, like, getting screwed over financially.
Wow.
Yeah. So it
Now that's what I
seems
call a
like,
stimulus.
yeah, and it's so I think a lot of people in the internet lifting sphere are recognizing this for what it is, which is a cash grab.
Oh
And they're
yeah,
not happy about
absolutely.
it. Like Johnny Candido on his channel was saying, he's like, I'm thinking about never lifting with
USAPL,
USAPL again. Like go USA,
USPA,
USPA or, you know,
IPF, or who the
yeah,
fuck ever.
anyone,
Mm-hmm.
anyone else, which it's, it might be what happens because I don't know. It doesn't
So
really
what?
make me want to lift with them, seeing
Yeah,
them doing stuff like that. So,
I think I
but
already
yeah,
paid for this
there's,
year too.
yeah, see, I haven't paid for anything yet. So I don't know. I might just go USPA. Plus, I get to pull in a deadlift bar, which those are cool.
You literally only lift with a deadlift bar.
Yeah, if I have the option.
Yeah. I don't think
Hmm.
I've ever pulled with a deadlift bar specifically. I've always done a straight bar.
Oh, see, the deadlift bar is, I mean, it's a different sport, kind of. Like it's like equipped lifting. It's just different. Like you can't really compare
Yeah.
stiff bar versus deadlift bar. And I mean, deadlift bar makes it easier to lift more weight, so I like it.
Maybe I should give it a try. I can
Yeah,
finally
you
break
should.
600.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of other federations, the only other big thing I saw in like any lifting news, it was the IPA kickoff meet for 2021 on February 6th in Clearfield, Utah. A
Okay.
36-year-old gentleman named Nathan Baptist just broke the all-time world record equipped squat.
Nice. All right. How much?
1,311 pounds, which is 594.7 kilograms for our friends overseas.
That's insane. Oh
He's, I
my
mean,
god.
granted, dude's a super heavyweight, 140 kilos
Kilos.
plus, which actually puts him in a group of two men, two humans to ever squat over 1,300 pounds. So, yeah,
That's crazy.
He broke Brian Carroll's record of 1306.
Wow.
But when Brian said it, he was 140 kilos weight class. So instead of 140 plus. But I watched the video of it, and it is the quintessential multiply squat. Things a little on the high. It's a little on the high side, but he got two white lights, so
That's all you need.
that's the game. That's the
Wait, it's only
game.
2 in equipped?
It's only two ever.
It's 3. You got the front and the 2 sides.
Yeah, but you only need two white.
Oh, okay. You got me.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, they just meant
Come on, Joe. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Okay. I mean, yeah. It's like you don't really want it if you're not cheating.
And that squat's a little on the high side.
Which a lot of Call of Duty players would argue right now, because there's a slew of cheaters that are making people quit Warzone because there's an insane amount of aim assist and like I don't even know the rest of the cheats because I don't do them, but it's been really bad. It's making it hard to play.
So is that something that everybody could do, or is that just like specifically some people like hacking in and changing stuff?
Well, don't
Like
give them that much credit because you don't have to hack to do shit. It's
hacking.
exactly hacking would be a courtesy to them. No, apparently you can like pay $10 to whatever software or shit, I don't even know. But I heard some guys say that it was $10, and then you use the software and like you're good to go. You can start cheating for $10.
Dang.
Like,
You should try it. Let me know how it is.
No, I have too much dignity. I can't. I'm
Yeah.
perfectly okay with being perfectly okay. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy.
So if you
being
use
just a
the
jump
cheater
of average.
software, so if you use the cheater software and still weren't very good, then you'd have a problem with it.
Okay, look, don't at me, bro.
You're like, oh dang, I still suck.
Yeah, I feel targeted.
Yeah.
Don't watch this
You
for him. Watch it for me. All right.
Are you hashtag triggered?
Hashtag trigger.
Ree.
That actually reminds me of a really funny meme. It's like a woman giving birth, and the doctor's like, push! And the baby launches out of this woman into a protein jar, and he comes out going, scream! It's funny.
Oh. All right. Well, this one's, speaking of people being triggered, this one's a little bit more on the nerdy side. The Cara Dune from The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Have you seen this news about her?
Yes.
All right.
She got fired.
So
continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, apparently she got fired over some whatever on social media. In my time doing my research, I wasn't actually able to find any of her actual tweets or Instagram stories or whatever. I could just find a bunch of articles about people saying like how bad whatever she said was. So
Right.
don't know what she said, but if you're working, I mean, if it was actually bad or what, like I don't know. But when you're working for Disney, you got to toe the line. You got to be careful.
I mean, in general, like you see stuff about people getting fired or like lose or getting rejected from a job or a school or whatever because of shit they post all the time. Like social media has taken down so many people, but probably for the best reasons, you know.
Yeah. I wonder what she said. I couldn't find anything.
So
I wonder what she said.
What I saw
That'd be
was she is like a non-COVID believer for one, so she like openly criticized mask wearers and stuff like that. And I saw something about what was it? Fraud in the election. Like she was poking all of these political bears instead of just leaving it be. The other one was she was making transphobic jokes. That was a big one.
So it's just like all the stuff that like boomers post on Facebook.
I mean, yeah.
She put it on there, and people were like, "Oh, I've never encountered this before. I don't like this."
Dare to be different.
You can't be saying that stuff.
If it's different, I'm scared of it.
Yeah, you can't be saying that stuff and have people want to have you work for them.
Yep. So that's That's why. That's why she got fired.
Interesting.
So now I'm wondering, are they going to recast the character or just take it out?
I think they'll just kill her.
Killer makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
like Pedro Pascal will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm sad that she died off
oh
screen."
no, off screen, yeah.
Yeah,
Because they already like finished her arc for the most part. She's like, all right, now I'm the sheriff of this town. We're good to go.
yeah, they
Like,
might just not have her. They might just not have her.
yeah, that makes
But
sense. So
speaking of
since you're
Pedro
a Star Wars
Pascal,
nerd, how
yeah,
much do you like The Mandalorian?
I liked the first season more than I liked the second. I liked them both. They were both good. It was good TV. It was entertaining. I liked the first season a lot more because it was a standalone thing. I It's kind of a fine line to walk between having those well-known characters and having it just seem like fan service. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
Like it was
sure.
kind of cool to see Ahsoka, and it was kind of cool to see, just like people from the older Star Wars movies, someone that like a more casual fan might recognize.
Right. Well, I mean,
But
Ahsoka's from the Clone Wars, but
yeah, which,
I see what you're
but it kind
saying.
of felt like they were just setting up. It felt like they were just setting up spin-offs.
Right.
Like now Ahsoka's going to have a show, and Bo-Katan's going to have a show. You know?
I feel like they're saving themselves because so many people hated the new movies.
Well, it's because they were bad. Objectively, they
Objectively,
were
they should have.
bad. They
The
were so bad.
production,
So
but like the production value of these movies, incredible. Like they were beautiful to watch.
yeah, like the cinematography was good, but it was like the everything else that makes Star Wars Star Wars. Like, you know,
There was a lot to be seen, I guess.
there's a lot to be desired.
Desired, that's the word.
Joe, these movies were bad.
Yeah. To you.
That's my hot take. They were bad. They were not just to
To
me.
you. But I'm not the Star Wars nerd like you are.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, your friend, we'll be having him
Yes.
too. And he'll talk some more about Star Wars and we'll get his hot take.
He's, I think, even more strongly opinionated about these things than I am. He is intense about his love of movies. Like,
Movies.
um, yeah,
I love movies.
it's. Do you remember? Did you ever read or watch the Hunger Games
Yeah,
movies and
both.
books?
Hmm.
So the books were amazing. Movies were not. And like just to show his level of intensity about these kinds of things, we were in like I don't know high school or middle school when the first movie came out,
Mm.
and he saw it the night before I did, and he was like, "Oh, call me after you see it, and I want to know what you thought." And I just watched it, and I called him, and I was like, "Oh, I thought it was like it wasn't so bad," and he hung up on me. And I called
You're
it
like,
back. I'm like,
we're no
"What?" He's
longer
like, "That
friends.
movie was." He's like, "That movie was fucking garbage. How could you not think that?"
I
It's
had
like, all right.
I had a lot of opinions about the movie, and like there was a
Mhm.
lot of things I'm like, oh, I wish they did that the same in the book. But there was also a lot of things like that were described that I just couldn't visualize. And then when they put it in the movie, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Uh, and this comes into the debate about like the purism of reading versus watching, and only watching and not reading, sort of thing.
Mhm.
That was one of the few things that I actually read all the books and saw the movies,
Yeah.
and I had an appreciation for both. One of my arguments for like anti uh, literary purism
Mhm.
is these worlds are fake and they're meant to be adjusted. like
Yeah. Like
so
it's
like
it's imaginary.
it's already fake, you know,
Yeah.
let's expand the suspension of disbelief, right? And
Yeah.
I'm especially um supportive of like changes to comic books from comics to or from like Marvel or DC comics to the movies, because like sometimes things only work in the written word, and other times they only work visually. Like they're two separate mediums for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, also with my somewhat limited experience with comics, it seems like a lot of times the conflicts in a comic book versus a movie, like the comic will be on such a large scale. Like Planet Hulk is like, didn't he like destroy the planet? Where it's
Uh,
like that kind of stuff doesn't
yep.
work in the movies because movies is for like a casual audience. They're not gonna, if like the whole planet gets destroyed, they're gonna be like, "How
See,
was that?"
I disagree because the same people that read the comic books go to watch the movies. Like
Right.
the viewership is there. It's the money that's not. It costs 20 cents to write like an elaborate storyline with 150 characters, like all these superheroes. And like when Civil War came out, I think there's like around 150 characters or superheroes involved in actual Civil War, right?
Hmm.
But in the movie, what was there, like 12 or something like that?
Yeah, like 15 maybe.
Because you try paying 150 people over $1 million. Like, come
Yeah.
on. That's a hard,
It would also have to be a 12-hour movie.
and it would have to be a 12-hour movie. Like,
Yeah, with it would take 50 years to like make the amount of movies so everyone got their own movie or you know who they are too.
hmm yeah,
Hmm.
that's a good point. Without having to like throw people into the story without previously introducing them, specifically in MCU, because they're so, what's the word? They always want to keep the loop complete, right?
Hmm.
So there's all these nuances and cameos in other movies that directly relate to movies that came out like 6 years in the future, right?
Hmm.
Because there's this whole plan. Now imagine that with 150 people. Well, all right,
Yeah, it would be a mess. It'd
even
be a mess.
30 people.
Yeah. So, why do you think the DC can't make a good movie? Because like Marvel has not only have they like shown like it can be done, but it can be like replicated on a massive scale. Like how many of the Marvel movies are a dud? Like not that many, but it seems like consistently, at least from what I've seen, DC movies are not very good. Like the first Wonder Woman was really good. That's it.
Okay. So, to answer your question uh simply, they haven't had as long to establish, right? And I don't mean the comic books and I don't mean the storylines. I mean that they haven't had the same four people like to build this universe off of. They've had five Supermans or five Batmans
Hmm.
and like three or four Supermans. And Marvel had this algorithm a whole long time ago, right? So they made the Incredible Hulk with what the hell's his
Fight
name?
Club guy.
Edward Norton,
Yep.
right? And then they made Iron Man, and then that was just it. They were like, okay, this is a thing now. Let's connect all these stories. And then, like 10 years later, DC finally had the opportunity and they had to catch up. And so they stuffed it into three movies and they made Justice League. Or not even that.
Hmm.
They made two movies. It was, what was it?
Batman
Batman
versus
versus
Superman.
Superman. Yeah. And then they made the
Yeah.
Justice League. And then they made the prequels afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, like the first time you see Wonder Woman is at the end of Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, she's in it I don't remember it well enough to like say specifically. But I do remember like really enjoying the first one, Wonder Woman, but also
Yeah, it was
thinking,
good.
but also thinking, that was Captain America. That was the Captain America movie in a
Yeah.
different filter, right? And
Yeah, I
then
can see that.
the hero or the guy, because obviously she's the hero, but the guy flies away in a plane
Hmm.
that's got a bomb and then crashes it, or Captain America crashes it and then Chris Pine blows up in the air. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of the same thing, but even still, it was an enjoyable movie. I also hated the villain in that movie.
Well, I thought the villain was it was the only real issue. Like, if they had just at the end been like, oh, like the original like whole what the plot led up to is like, oh, like sometimes the evil of man, of humanity, is just caused by people. It's not like there is no God of War causing all these issues.
Right.
And then, like all these DC movies are doing, there has to be like some big scary monster at the end of fight.
Hmm.
So I think if they just hadn't had that last fight, movie would have been perfect. Well, not
Okay. Well,
perfect, but as close to it as you could be.
right. That doesn't really
And
differ from Marvel though, because like
no,
all the Marvel movies have some big villain at the end. However, I think you are right that it didn't build up to it. Right. The
yeah,
Marvel movies built up to
the final fight, the
the
boss
final
fight.
fight. Yeah. And we know who it's going to be with. Right. We see the um, antagonist and the protagonist story development, generally speaking.
Yeah. Well, it's like it almost seemed like when you were watching it, like they got to the end of the movie and they were like they got scared. Like they were gonna do just like the moral of the story is like this. Like sometimes people are just bad. There is no scary monster. And like some producer, some Hollywood guy who's been there for 30 years was like, no, no, we need a monster. Like throw one in. And it seemed like they just threw it in at the end.
Exactly. So,
And then Wonder Woman 1984 ruined Steve Trevor's sacrifice of him dying in the plane by bringing him back, which was dumb. That whole movie was bad.
he had to re-sacrifice himself.
That whole movie was bad.
I mean, Pedro
Okay,
Pascal was great.
yeah, he had a moving performance. Like when he goes and like finds his son at the end, it was like, oh, he found his son. So you're right. That part was good, but everything else was bad.
I agree. I was incredibly disappointed.
Yeah,
Fortunately, I didn't
my
have to see
in-laws
that in
paid like
theaters.
$30
Gross.
to get it on HBO Go or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of which, I don't really appreciate having to spend $30 at home for a movie, but
mhm.
whenever I go to a movie theater, I easily spend 50. Like
Yeah, but you're in the movie theater. Like the movie theater is its own experience.
it's an experience, sure.
You
Sure.
know?
But I still spend $50 at the movies when not. I could not do that. The movie theaters is one of my favorite places. When I was at my first Navy school,
Hmm.
every single weekend I went to the movies. I was the guy that saw the movies, so people that like I didn't really know would come up to
Hmm.
me like, "Hey, did you see that movie this weekend?" Like, yeah, it was this, and I thought this about it. They'd be like, "Oh, cool, I'll go see it." Like that's how often I went. I probably spent $5,000 at the movie theater that year.
God damn, probably making that E2 pay, huh?
I was never an E2.
Oh, Intel.
No, I dropped a college dropout. I made
So
it
what
all
are
the way
college
to
dropouts?
E3.
What do they start at? Oh, E3?
Hmm.
And then what, you just
In the
stayed there
Navy.
forever until, yeah.
Yeah. In the Army, you get E4, I think. Like,
Marines, you get E2 for doing some college.
yeah, but I kind of. Anyway.
Also, for people who don't understand, between the different military branches, like the Marine Corps, you get responsibility like at a lower level. Like for us, like E4 is when you actually start to have some responsibility. Where I think like Army, it's like E5 or like
It's E5.
E6 would be in charge of. Yeah, it's like you'll be in charge of people. Where it's like I was in charge of dudes. Is like I mean E3, E4.
Yeah, me too.
So I
Yeah.
think it's all just a fucking scam by the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is all about, oh, we're empowering our junior Marines to be leaders. No, you just want an E3 to be able to do the job of an E5 without getting paid extra.
Yeah, do the
And it's
job of the
smart.
rank you
It
want. That's
works.
what I used to hear all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
hmm By the way,
Like,
Gage is a veteran now. He's
yeah.
recently been separated from
Recently
the military.
separated.
Well, I guess Ben separated. Sounds like it wasn't his option. He chose to not
Yeah.
re-enlist.
Chose to get out. Yep. Yeah, I guess we could talk about that. You're currently in the Navy doing secret
Yep.
squirrel stuff.
Yep.
You don't get to
Yep.
tell me what you do.
I've still got 2 years left. Currently looking at orders. Probably going to stay here for, I guess, the year after these orders end, and then I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. I worked on helicopters in Hawaii, which there's worse places to be stationed.
Yep.
And now I'm out. I'm a free man. I moved up to Alaska, and I'm working on airplanes.
Which is pretty tight.
Yeah, it's cool.
See,
I like
kids,
it.
you learn things from being in the military. You get useful skills.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that sarcastically.
No, it is a genuinely useful skill. I like as much shit as you put up with in the military. Like, if you pick the right job, you can get a lot out of it. Like, I feel like I got a lot out of being in the military. Like, it took a lot, and like, I don't hear so good anymore, and like little, stuff like that. But
Yep.
I got a lot. I feel like I got more than it took, which not everyone can say that. But if you choose the right job, it's easy.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, before I joined, my dad told me, he's like, yeah, you're gonna wake up some days and you're just gonna absolutely hate your life. And like before I joined the military, I didn't have a concept of like waking up and just being like, wow, I'm still alive. Fuck. Like,
It's
shit,
like that.
I didn't die.
It's like that Adam Driver video that's been going around. He's in something with Scarlett Johansson, and he's like,
Oh yeah, the
every
Marriage
morning
Story.
I wake up.
Yep.
Zach sends that in the group chat every Monday. It's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, he told me, he's like, yeah, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna hate your life some days. And I was just like, oh, like that sounds not fun, but whatever. I just didn't have a concept of it. And then you like that it happens, and you're just like, oh, he's right. And then
Yeah.
you get out.
Yep. My dad was in the Army. I don't really remember him talking to me much about like what he did in the Army or what it was like being in the Army. Just now that I'm in the Navy, he's like, "Oh, yep, that's gonna suck sometimes."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Oh, dope.
that'll happen. Yeah.
Yep, that's gonna happen." Oh, you get
Yeah.
food? Cool. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Speaking of which, he's actually the original reason I'm like partnered.
who's that? Your dad?
Yeah, because my
Hmm.
dad, he's 53. I want to say he's 53. And he's still playing video games all the time.
Huh.
Yeah. He's also an artist, and he's a very good painter, and like drawer in general. But I remember the very first time I played video games was with him. We were playing
Yeah.
Doom on the computer, and I was his little reloader. I would sit in his lap, and he'd be playing, right? And
Mhm.
he'd be like, reload it, and I'd be like, on the reload button, and I would just be like
Just
watching,
button.
literally just like, and he's like, all right, stop. And I just remember staring at the screen and watching him obliterate demons on Doom, which as a 3-year-old, maybe not the best thing, but
Eh,
I turned out okay,
yeah, that's fine.
right?
I remember I was like 4. I was like 4, and my mom was like out of town on a business trip, and my dad showed me Jaws
Nice.
when I was like looking back. Like now, when you watch that movie, you're just like, wow, this is pretty bad.
This is not great.
But as a 4-year-old, I was just like, holy fuck! Like I
Yeah.
live on the lake.
Oh my god. Yeah. My dad used to watch Alien with me. Predator.
Ooh,
I grew up with
yeah,
those. I remember watching Blood Rain, and that was like the first time I saw like boobs in a movie.
nice.
Yeah, he bought it on pay per view. Mm-hmm. I remember that. I'm sure he does
Nice.
too.
Yeah.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, my dad's not so much into the nerd stuff. He's actually really into music. He's got a band with I think 4 or 5 of his buddies. They actually played at our wedding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they do
What kind
like
of music does he
the
play? Hmm.
like bluegrass, folksy kind of stuff like that. He's fucking shreds on the mandolin. So,
That's
yeah, they're
cool.
pretty good.
That's
Yeah,
really
they're pretty
cool.
good. Yeah.
What's the band's name?
They're called the Little Shaky,
Okay.
and I don't think they have any social media or YouTube or anything like that. So you
Well,
can't find them online.
we should fix
Sorry. Yeah.
that. Just in case,
Tried to do a shameless plug, but I said, well, what about you? How's your training been going? I didn't get to
Training.
ask you before we started like
Oh,
lifting. I didn't get to ask you before we hit the record button.
um, pretty good.
Yeah.
I've really been tackling this bodybuilding program. Um, I like it. I want to say I like it just as much as I like powerlifting.
Oh,
Like
really?
all the time I miss lifting heavy, and I miss not doing more than 5 reps, cuz more than 5 reps is cardio. But I have gotten the most cut in my entire life, and I've lost like 25 pounds in the past
Nice.
2 months. Yeah, which I feel like that's a decent rate. I should probably start putting on weight again so I can cut again.
Yeah.
But one thing I don't miss about powerlifting is my body like literally being in pain all the time.
Yeah, bodybuilding sore and powerlifting sore are like two different animals. Like bodybuilding sore, you're like, ow, like my quads are sore, or like my
Yeah.
hamstrings or my biceps are sore. Powerlifting strongman are like the same in this way, where it's like after you do it, you're just like,
Ow.
bones hurt.
My
Ouch.
joints.
I feel like I got hit by a truck.
Literally. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was always like the best and worst feeling after a competition. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I feel like I can't move, but that means I did a lot at the
Yeah.
meet, right? Which
Hmm.
is a good feeling.
Yeah. I
Um,
think strongman messes me up more than powerlifting. Like, is in as terms of like the day after the competition. Like after Hawaii's Strongest Man of 2018, I think we
mhm.
did a stone to shoulder, and it was literally it's like rolling this. I think it was a 220 or 240 pound stone to shoulder. So you're taking it from the ground up to your shoulder.
Right.
So like it's from your hip up to your shoulder. You're rolling it up your body.
Mhm.
So it's I think I got 5 reps. So it's 240 pounds rolling on you 5 times. So like from here to here was just a bruise.
Oh damn.
Yeah, like I
I
woke
mean,
up in the morning and I with my shirt off, and my wife was like, "Oh, like you
are
don't
you
look so
okay?
good."
You should get in an
Yeah,
ice
she's
tub.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, strongman, the equipment is literally beating your ass back. Like
yeah.
your hands get chewed up. I remember I did strongman for 2 weeks. We did the duck walk, or what was it? Um the one the one where the weights are in between your legs and there's like
Yeah, the duck walk, and you went
the
up to
the
the
T bar.
to power stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, duck walk to power stairs. That event is brutal if you're like under 6 feet tall.
Well, we
So
already know that I am 6'4".
yeah,
But I
yeah,
looked.
that's a tough one.
The inside of my legs were bruised for like a month, and it went through the
Yeah,
bruise phases, like you know, um, the stages of grief, but in bruise form. I went from like the black to the purple, the red, or the blue, the red, and then it was green, and then yellow, and then it
yeah, the
finally went away.
greens. The
Like
greens is the good stuff.
it beat my ass, but it was really cool doing like the circus dumbbell and
Hmm.
what was the other one? The log flip, right? I guess it wasn't
The
a log
Fingal's finger.
flip. Just the finger. Hmm.
Yeah, that one's cool.
That one is
That one
cool.
is a super rare event too. I think there's like one finger in Hawaii, and like
Hmm.
I think most other places you'd have to go to like California to find them, or like
Yeah,
big time strongman gyms because they're pretty rare.
yeah. Uh, Shockingly difficult.
Yeah, that one's hard
Hmm.
because there's
And
no grip
scary.
on that big metal pole. Yeah, you're like holding it above your head, hoping
Hmm.
it doesn't slip and crunch your skull.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Um, I remember while we were at um, what's his face's place, building the stairs for the duck walking
Hmm.
stairs, uh, and his nail gun was shooting nails like through the wood and out the side. And I almost got fucking nailed by one, pun intended, I guess. Jesus. And I was the one doing the nails because I just showed
Yeah,
up and I was like, by the way, I'll help. I guess.
that's what you get for offering, being polite.
How dare?
Can't do that, Joe.
I have to
Mm.
be. That's who I am.
Yeah. I don't know. What about like with bodybuilding? Like you know how there's like the mindset you get in before like a heavy squat or something. Like picking
Mm.
up a heavy squat is like squatting is different than deadlift because like if you drop a deadlift, like
You
it's
just let
gone.
go. Yeah.
Or like bench, like I guess bench it can be a little scary when it's heavy, but like squat, like it's on your back and it's terrifying when it gets really heavy. So there's a mindset. Do you feel like there's ever that mindset for bodybuilding, or is it just more like just like digging deep and doing the reps?
It's mostly just digging deep because, like, you're never really in a scenario
Hmm.
where you're under, or I guess when you're not in a machine, right? The only
Hmm.
times that you're not in a machine is when you're benching or if you're using dumbbells. And those are
Yeah.
free weights. Like dumbbells, you can toss to the side or whatever. You let go of them and get out of the way, right? Bench,
Hmm.
obviously, obviously, like you can drop it on your chest. Nothing will probably happen, assuming you don't just like let go at the top. And usually there's the catching bars.
Did I tell you about when I did that to myself?
No, what do you mean? Explain.
So
Story time.
it was right when all the COVID first hit the fan, and I needed to lift, and I didn't have a home gym set up. All the gyms are closed, so there
Mm-hmm.
was like the right across from our squadron, across the street. There's like the prison gym, which is literally just like a piece of shit hole in the wall gym on base that was technically closed. And the straightest bar I could find was, I mean, it was like a buffalo bar. Like it was just bowed, but it
Oh
was
God.
bowed not incredibly evenly. So I'm like, well, I got a bench and this is all I got. So I guess I'll just be careful. And I had like 250 on the bar, and I was like, oh, do I need wrist wraps? Like the bar's bent, it's kind of unstable. And I'm like, no, it's only 250. Like I don't really need wrist wraps quite yet. And then so I unrack it and I do a rep, and then from the side view, it was the weight was just not where it normally is. So my wrists did one of these, and I was like,
Mm.
whoa. And I did another rep, and then my wrist did one of those, and it just jumped out of my hands and
Oh
just
God.
fell from full lock
Yeah.
to my chest, and then bounced about 6 inches in the air and pile
Right back
drive me
down.
into the bench again.
That's gnarly.
So I squeezed out from under the bar and I went home. I laid there for a while. I was like, I was like, holy fuck.
One time when I was lifting at DLI, um, one of the guys that I used to lift with would bench with suicide grip,
Oh,
and like he would be like this,
oh,
and
can't
then it
do
just
that.
like just one time it just fell out. It was like 275, and it fell out on his chest. And I remember thinking like, "There's nothing
Shit.
I can do there. I can't. I'll pick it up afterwards. I'll help you
I'll help
there."
you pick up the broken pieces.
Yeah, but like he literally dropped it out and was like, "Ugh," picked it up and like put it back out, racked it, and it was like, "All right,
It's like,
well,
maybe I should use my thumbs.
any ribs broken? Like, we're good." He was fine. I mean, adrenaline, I
Yeah.
guess, and
Yeah.
ribs are super flexible, but
Yeah, ribs are strong. And they like squish.
and they squish. What a word.
I was fine, like relatively, like everything
Obviously.
hurt, but there was no real damage.
Yeah.
I lived. I don't think I told my wife that story until now, if she listens to this. So,
Yeah.
sure. Hey, baby. I'm sure that'll make her feel better about me lifting by myself.
Oh, totally.
I
I'm
always
sure
tell her
she'll
too.
learn
I'm
a
like,
lot of things.
yeah, yeah. She'd always be like, "Oh, I just worry about you lifting by yourself." I'm like, "That's fine. Nothing bad will happen.
It's gonna be fine. Don't worry about
I'll be fine. Don't worry about me."
it.
Hmm.
But yeah.
But okay, so I was asking about the mindset of it because, as you know, the mindset is such a huge part of powerlifting. I had a really interesting conversation with, um, for our wedding, my wife Nicole and her best friend, who's also named Nicole.
Mhm.
She was the maid of honor, so she came into town, and she is an actress and a producer out in old Hollywood who's trying to make it. So we just had an interesting conversation about the mental side of like acting versus powerlifting and how
Right.
it's actually
Pretty
not
comparable.
that different. Yeah, it's like
Interesting.
really, it's like, because think about how mental, like, I mean, how many heavy singles on squat do you think you can do before it's just like, nope, I'm done. Time to go do some quad
3.
extensions and then go home.
Yeah.
Right. So I was asking, I was like, is it like draining when you're like doing like, oh, like I'm gonna cry in this scene or like I'm gonna scream at someone in this scene? And she was like, yeah, it's actually like
It's
we came to the
extremely
conclusion
exhausting.
that it's extremely exhausting. And I guess you
Yeah.
have a little bit of
Yeah.
experience in both of those worlds as a theater guy.
I
Because
remember when I was in high school, uh, we used to do rehearsal after school, which I feel like is probably the case for most theater programs.
yeah,
But whenever we were working a play, we would have to rehearse one scene over and over and over, like probably no less than 20 times in one day. Obviously, depending at what point during the rehearsal process we were in. But like my voice would get hoarse. I'd be sweating bullets because the lights are hot. You're in costumes, the makeup, like, and you're in such close proximity to people, depending on how big the stage is that you have, that you're just like hot and tired and you can't breathe very well.
yeah,
It's taxing.
yeah. It seems like it'd be hard. I don't know if I could be a good actor.
I
Like,
think you'd be great.
I just,
You can do that.
I don't know. Like, I feel like if it was like an emotional range that I felt comfortable, like, oh, like I experienced that. I know what that's supposed to be like. I could accurately portray that on camera,
Hmm.
but I don't know how many times I'd be able to replicate that. And I also, I mean, if it's good at all, I don't know how many times I could accurately portray that and have it look real. It
So
just seems like it'd be so exhausting.
So here's a little glimpse into theater nerddom. Don't do that. Uh, my teacher always used to tell me acting is reacting, right?
Mm.
So you take whatever you're co-actor is or actress, you take whatever they're giving you, like using the way they say things, the way they look at you, or whatever, and create a real reaction, right? So
Yeah.
one time they'll say something that like makes you angry, and the only way to actually react to this situation is to yell, right? So you do that. And then the next
Right.
day they deliver the line differently, or something changed. They're not quite in it the same, and just the information gets from them to you differently. And so your reaction has to adjust accordingly, right? And that's real on a final stage and a starting stage. So when you're opening night or closing or whatever, you will never have the same product unless you're not doing it right. Right?
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Which is the same with powerlifting, right?
Yeah.
I squat 550. 3 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by, 540 is hard, right? Because my body's changed. The food that I ate that week changed. The amount of water that I drank for the whole week was not enough, was too much. I had too much sugar in my system. All of those factors change the output, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you take what's given and you react. And I can see how those are really the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. It's like, although if there's two worlds that you would expect to be very, very different, I would say powerlifting and acting.
Yeah. Absolutely. Arguably polar opposites. But
yeah, that's the point of what we do or are
exactly.
trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that this channel and viewers, if you're viewing this on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. I think
Or
that
if you have
this
any
is
questions.
Yeah. Or if you just want to say something mean to Joe, that's cool too.
Say mean things to me.
I think that this is
that.
yeah, I think this is a good thing. I think that this channel has hopefully some potential to go somewhere. Hopefully we can get some traction, get some good conversations with some guests.
Absolutely.
We've got a few lined up. We'll see when we get to them.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people find you, Joe?
So you can find me on Instagram at Joe_Swogel_Jr. Facebook, I'm Joe Ogle Jr. And that's really it. The YouTube channel will be up soon. It'll be Games and Gains. And the more people that we get watching the videos, the easier it'll be to find the YouTube channel. Where can we find you, JH?
You can find me on Instagram at 12gauge_slug. And that's really it. I don't really go on Facebook. I think I technically still have a Twitter, but I haven't logged on to it since about 2013.
We'll both create Twitters because it's really easy to interact with people on Twitter.
Yeah, we can interact with the people, our viewers, the people who we already text every day, probably.
But I'll go ahead and put those at the bottom of the screen here, so it's easier for you to find.
Yeah. And then, so this is like you said, this will be on YouTube, and I think we're also going to try to get an audio-only version onto something like Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll try to get there, just to make it as easy as possible.
Yep. And that was the first episode of Games and Gains podcast.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
That's all I got. See you guys later.